Hi everyone, my name is Cash. Uh, I'm an Azure architect, and in this video, I'll be teaching you guys how to deploy a container. Before we talk about in our last exercise what we have done, that we have published, we have containerized an application, a .NET application, and we created an image in our Linux virtual machine. If you go through this exercise, I've explained to every single step how from the scratch how to containerize an application and create an image, a custom image using Linux virtual machine where I install Docker and and created a Docker file and with all the examples and all the commands. So if you can see that we have done that. So in just to reiterate from the last exercise, we installed a Docker on a virtual machine. We created a folder, a work folder from the Visual Studio app, and transferred to our Linux virtual machine using WinSCP. And finally, we build the image in our Linux virtual machine. If I show you that, so for example, so in this course, sorry, in this lecture, what we'll do, we have built a Docker image. Now we will be deploying a container. So this was the exercise we have done 144, and today we are doing deploying a container. So what do we do in this one? We will publish this Docker image to our Docker registry, and the Docker registry in our case is an Azure Container registry. And from there anybody can pull down this image and create a container. We will also create an Azure Container registry. So this is what we will create a registry, and from there we can pull down an image, plus we'll install CLI. And so let's start doing this few initial step and see you in creating the deploying our container into our Azure instance, container instance. So here we can check that this application is working or not. So to explain again, we need to have a container, Azure Container registry, and we need Azure Container instance. So that means we can deploy our container on Azure Container instance, or second option is that we can use Azure or Kubernetes or Azure AK cluster. Okay, let's get started. Let's go to my Azure portal. So what we'll do, if we go to home and search for container registry. So this is like a GitHub of Azure. We can keep our images and deploy images or pull down images from here. So let's create that. I'll choose the same resource group and call it, say, local registry 2024. Just need to be unique, and we don't need availability zone, pricing plan standard, networking, and next, and create. As you can see, our is created. If you go to resource, and this is our container registry. And if you go to repositories, we do not have any repository at the moment over here. This is, we're going to be pushing that repository from, sorry, the image from our Linux machine. If I show you that, this is my Linux machine, which I'm already logged in. If I ls on this, this is the folder we published in our last exercise. If I go to this folder, publish, enter, ls again, now we can see that all these files from the project and the Docker file is here from where we can create the image. To check that image, we go to Docker sudo Docker images. We can see that, yes, so we have got this image SQL app. So this SQL app was our Visual Studio project, .NET project, and we containerized and created a custom image which is called SQL app. And also when we install Docker, we, for testing purpose, we installed hello world. So the next step is that before we do anything, if we go to that, we need to install Azure CLI. So if you go to this document and install Azure CLI on Linux, install Azure CLI. So we need all these step-by-step installation instructions. So first thing, we just copy that and go to our Linux. Let's clear this, install, enter. Just click yes. Yes, so install now. Now we go to second step, copy this, enter. That's done. Now we go to third step, third step done. Now we go to fourth step, and we go to our Linux machine again, right click, enter. It is unpacking our Azure CLI, as you can see that, installing. Yep, this is installed now. Right, so we have installed Azure CLI on our Linux machine. So let's see what's the next step. So if you go there, we've installed the Azure CLI. Now what we do, first log on to Azure Container Registry via command line, and then we'll tag and then push the image, and then after that we'll check our in Azure portal that this image has been pushed or not. Okay, so to do this, we need to have our registry's name. So our registry name is local registry 2024. Same, this is a username. So if you just copy and copy here, right. So to double check we have the right thing, if you go to a portal and if you go to container registry, as you can see that it's called local registry 2024. Just to make sure we get a copy from here. Okay, so it is local registry 2024. That's fine anyway. Right, if we just oh yes, to get this password, we can get password from, if we go to access keys and click admin user, and we can use any of this password. So just copy that and go to our and just copy paste here, and we copy this command, right click, copy, and we go to our Linux machine. Let's clear this and right click, enter. Okay, 1 second, something went wrong. Right, the mistake I've done is I need to have a password here. Now if we try again, copy, a second, sorry, my apologies. Supposed to be a lowercase password p. Hopefully it will work this time. Copy again, and if I go to my Linux machine, let's clear this again. Oops, sorry. Clear again, right click, enter. Yes, that's fine. So that's just ignore this warning. So finally we in. So remember that we need to have a lowercase p password, and we need to have a password parameter here before we type in. Next thing, we need to tag our image, and so the tag with our image name is SQL app, which we have seen earlier, and the registry we need to copy again. This is not our registry, so we copy from here again, right click, copy, paste, and just copy this command again, copy, and if we go to our Linux machine, right click again and enter. That's it, that's that done. Now we need to push our image to the Azure Container registry. Again, we need to change the registry name. My apologies, I copied that thing, so basically I need to copy this again. Oops, sorry. Okay, and let's copy this again and paste it here. Right, so just click on 14 and copy, paste onto our, right click and enter. Here we go. As you can see that there are lots of steps involved in doing all this process, pushing it via Azure Container Services and deploying onto Azure Container Instance. That all could have been done from Visual Studio, but sometimes it creates lots of problems, and so that's why I always use Linux machine to do this manually. But in future exercises, what we'll do, we'll automate the whole process in our CI/CD pipeline, and then not all these manual steps will be involved. As you can see, this has been published. You can see the size 1788, and the image is latest. To confirm, it's been published to our Azure portal. If we go to our portal again, and if we go to this registry, if we go to repository, and you can see it's been pushed. So this is our latest image. Right, now we have successfully published our image from our Linux virtual machine, and on that Linux virtual machine we have Docker installed, and we have publish that Docker image, a custom image, to our container registry in Azure. But how do we check that this is a working container? Like how to make sure that our SQL app is running. To do this, what we can do, we can also, to test it, we can install Azure Container instances. So if we just go for all resources, create, and say container instances, yeah. Azure Container instances, this is the one. So if we click create, we choose our resource group is 400. We call it container name. The container name what we had is the one with this one. We can copy that. We just call it this name. Right, and you can give just any name, container name, and UK South standard, and we use Azure Container Registry. Click that, and you can see that it found automatically. So to not confuse this, I just call it some other name. Otherwise, you guys will be confused. So just call it 1000. Doesn't matter. It's a container name, and this is the registry we called it. If you remember that, and it automatically picked up the images already there. OS type is Linux. In networking, this is very important. So we are making sure this is public because we can download this container from on public on internet. So that's why we are exposing this container instance to port 80. Click next, advanced. We just leave it like that, reset policy and all that. Click tags and click create. As we can see, it's been created. If you go to resource, and to test our SQL app is running, so we just copy this public IP and we go to our browser, just right click and paste, enter. Hey, now we can see successfully our SQL app is running, and we can see all the tables in there. So we successfully published our custom image from our Linux virtual machine to container registry, and from container registry to test it the container is working, we used what do you call it, we used Azure Container instances, and to make sure it is running fine, we copied the IP and launched in the browser, and we can see the app, SQL app running with the insert table. So this is like a revision in telling you guys that how do we deploy a container in Azure Container instance, or how did we containerize an application using Docker image in Linux machine. But in future, in the next exercise, we'll automate all this process and we'll use Azure pipeline, CI/CD pipeline. I hope this is very informative to you. For any question, please comment in the YouTube video, and if you're stuck or anything, please let me know. What I'll do, I'll copy all these links and all the commands in the description, so you can do this exercise easily. Thank you very much for your watching and see you in next video. Goodbye.